here. But usually I stop and I'll gather myself for a minute, trying to establish some sort of inner peace. You know, calm myself, and then I go at it. You hold still, please. I want as quickly as I can get some sort of a line or an idea around the whole painting right off the bat. Nail the whole thing down. I won't finish any part. I want to nail the whole thing down. Will you remind me to tell you about the sheep? Don't let me forget that. That's important. If you walk out of anything, I want to tell you about the sheep. Three stages in completion of a Stapleton Kearns painting are as follows. Number one, I'm almost done. Number two, gee, I sure hope I'm doing this right. And number 3 is, this was going to be really good. Not like you think either. I mean really good. And they all marched through those 3 stages in their creation. I'm not really a painter. What I am mostly is a shape maker, arrangements of interesting trees. Like each one as different as I can from the other. I want to characterize each tree, and I want to make sure that I don't have 2 the same size, the same width, the same volume, or leaning quite the same direction. I want to get as many shapes as different from one another as I can on the canvas. That makes a painting hold the viewer's eye. If it takes longer to perceive it, to understand it, you got them longer. And right next to you on either side is another painting. And the way you keep their attention on your painting and not that painting over there is by building an arrangement of very interesting shapes. Subject matter won't do it. Just as it takes only a second to determine your subject matter, painter spends no time on subject matter. He decides, I don't paint a picture of a horse. That's how much time goes into deciding the subject matter in a horse picture. All the rest of the time goes into designing and drawing and coloring and all of that. Same as a perception. People look at a picture, they say, oh, that's a horse. It takes just as long. Everything that happens after that first section, the second they identify the subject matter, is about shapes and color. I'm not sick, I swear I had the vaccination, I'm just coughing. I keep this thing as transparent as I can for as long as I can. As soon as I touch that white, I'm locked down. I can shove this thing around with a rag, no problem, until I touch the white. As soon as I touch the white, we're locked down. Stay out of that white till you know what you're doing. I don't. I know good painters who do. I don't. Sometimes. Well, not much anymore. In the old days, sometimes I would run, I'd just take my rag and dip it in something. Like if everything was green, I could have laid this in with a rag. If everything being real green, I might do it with a rag, but generally, I don't. I'm having trouble with this little canvas I'm working on here. I don't usually paint on this board stuff because it flexes. Dale! This is my companion, Dale Movali.
Hey.
Over here on the right. She's provided this canvas here. She provides a lot of encouragement, and she's the one who stands beside me and says, "Surely you don't mean that, dear." And she is a fine painter in her own right. In fact, we're going Saturday to the North Shore Art Association so that she can pick up her Best in Show award there.
Go ahead.
It's pollen. I swear I'm not sick. I had the shot. Now I hit the white. Making grays, I need a white to do it.
water for your cough.
Thank you. Ordinarily, I would drink this stuff. It's got hydrogen in it. Didn't help, Dale. No, I'm working some white. I am. I kept it until I got into these trees and had those gray colors. And it just didn't seem like it was easy to make them transparent and keep them up in gray and get them up in value where I wanted them. So I grabbed the white. Anybody ever try painting in Italy? It's just the same as here.
Why is it the same as painting here?
It's the same in Iowa too. It's just the same. You won't be any better. Did you ever build a really fancy studio, like a $30,000 studio with 14-foot ceilings, north light? I did. Didn't make me any better either. If you were to pin me down and say, Stapleton, not many of you here could pin me down instantly, but if you were to pin me down and ask me how to cover thousands and thousands of things. There are some people who never get any better. I'm sorry about them. I can name a few. Some people just never get any better, but most people, if you work at it, you'll get better. And you won't get better until you do. You just got to do it, do it, do it, do it. I've been painting pretty much every day since 1970, something like that. It's a matter of doing lots of it. But it will yield to effort. It's almost automatic. You do a lot of it, you'll get good at it. Thank you, Dale.
There you go.
When the old pallet looks like that, I got to stop and clean my pallet. I can't make a clean note on a dirty pallet. Stop, clean your pallet. Pardon me?
Do you finish your paintings in the studio or do you do it here?
Often.
Yeah. Do you take pictures to do that or you just remember it?
Not so much. I take pictures, but I seldom use them. When I work from a photograph, I look at the photograph, say this goes here, that goes there, this goes here, there's that little dot here. When I work out of my head, I ask myself, what does this painting need? Photographs, they look like they'd be a lot more useful than they really are. Everything I do is begun outside. Some things are finished outside, some things are finished in the studio with a little work, some things are finished in the studio with weeks of work. All depends. And
When you block and you use, like when you did the initial blocking with the lines, is there a reason why you use blue versus an earth tone?
because I'm marking, putting down the darks, the white canvas I'm delineating my darks. So I want to block even the color I'll be happy to have underneath all of my darks. Outside in the light out here, it's usually yellow, usually blue is in the shadows. They tend to run cool in a warm light. So I'll happily put my shadows down with any element that I expect to be included in those shadows, like in this case a deep blue green or something like that. I wouldn't want to do it in cadmium orange because I'd be fighting it all the rest of the day trying to overcome it. Since I'm marking in my darks, I'll lay down my drawing, the color I'll be happy to have underneath my darks. Did you guys hear that on that side? What's the deal with Miley Cyrus, anyway?
Who cares?
I didn't care for the first like 4 or 5 years, but now I'm curious. I would like to know what the deal is. How long do I have for this demo? No, just 2 different titaniums, but one's an alkyd. Just speed up my drawing times a little bit. 2 different titaniums. And one was permalba, which is a weird kind of white. Sometimes I like it. Been using it lately. I can get a deal on a dozen tubes of it for, I don't know, 135 bucks, 160 bucks, something like that. There's our rum, has a deal on it.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I got to run, but
Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you next time.
Until, see you around the quad.
I would, however, like to take this opportunity, though, to thank you once again for your participation in today's activities.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. We're starting to lose them, Dale.
And there are no doors, Dave. You can't close them all.
That means go faster. You know, I wore that rubber chicken out. Finally, I got to where I pulled out of the bag one time, and people didn't even recognize it as a chicken. It was so beat. They didn't get it. And I couldn't find another one that was as good. I could get one quicker. It was good. They think I'm kidding. I used to bring a rubber chicken to demos. I had some gags I did with this rubber chicken. And people would sit and wait through the whole demo for me to get the rubber chicken out. I was really young in those days. I had to work harder to get people to take me seriously, you know? You get that rubber chicken out, they know you're not screwing around. Can make a lot of different marks with one brush. I can turn on side and make very fine marks with it. I can make broad flat marks with it. I can mash it in the end and get blotches and blots with it. I can put this brush on the canvas and take it any direction I want, except for up, oddly enough. I can go like this and like this and like this and like this, but it's hard to get an upstroke. So I drop the brush into my hand like a pendulum like this. I'll pull a brush stroke up like that. That's how I draw vertical lines. Everything else, I can turn my hand over. I can put this brush on the canvas and go any direction I want with it. And I'm always thinking about what direction I'm going to go with that brush too. I want my brush strokes to reveal the form, run along the form, run across the form. I'm always expressing, my brush stroke is my language. So I'm always expressing, what's the form doing here? Is it a clear form that's bounded? Am I going to get the width of something? All the time I'm painting, I'm thinking to myself, top of something, side of something, bottom of something, lights over here, shadows over here. Always thinking about how these things forms turn towards the light, towards or away from the light. Remind me about the sheep. That's important. You're not supposed to do that. Sheep.
Okay. What about the sheep?
Okay, good. I'm probably going to work about another half hour. This demo has gone longer than I advertised. I don't really care. I'll work, but if you got it split, have to split, that's okay. I'm going to work a little while longer. But I want to make sure you hear about the sheep. When I was studying long ago, when I was a kid, I studied with an old man named R.H. Ives Gamble. He was kind of a legendary figure. He was 82 when I studied with him in the early 70s. In fact, he went into Mexico after Pancho Villa behind Pershing. So he was a geezer. And he studied in France, at the Academy Julienne and all those places. And maybe that's where this story comes from. I don't know. He didn't make it up. He certainly handed it down, though. He talked about, this is goop. Mechanics hand cleaner. Works the nuts. Gets paint right off your hands. If you're outside, you don't have any water to clean up with, goop hand cleaner. Take paint right off your hands. You can get it on the ground, it won't kill the grass. And he tells a story about herding sheep. Sheep are female goats. A lot of you don't have an agricultural background, you might not know that. When you herd sheep, the idea is to keep the whole flock, scientists call them a pack, moving along at once. You don't want any sheep falling too far behind. You don't want any sheep getting too far ahead. The idea is to keep the whole flock marching along as one bunch. If any sheep falls way behind, you go and get that furthest back sheep, the furthest back straggler, and you grab him and bring him up, but you don't carry him all the way to the barn, throw him through the barn door, you throw him in the middle of the flock. And then you go back and you get the next furthest back straggler. And you go grab that last sheep in line, you bring him up, and you don't carry him all the way to the barn. You stick him in the middle of the flock. He's no longer the furthest back straggler. That's what I'm doing here. I'm always chasing my furthest back straggler. I'm looking at my painting and saying, which of my sheep has fallen furthest behind? I want the whole thing marching along. So I work all over the picture all the time. I don't try and finish one section and attach another section. I'm working the entire painting all the time. So as my painting, some of you are old enough to remember the pre-digital age, before we had digits, when we had photography, remember in the darkroom, you'd throw it in the developer and it would slowly come into view. Or those Polaroids they used to have, you'd take pictures of people and they would just suddenly appear out of the gray. That's how my paintings work on canvas. They get more and more focused. I start out with a very broad, brushy look, and then I reel them in. I do that by always asking myself, what is my furthest back straggler? Which part of this painting has fallen furthest behind? And I don't try and finish it. I don't take it all the way to the barn. I bring it up until it's as finished as the rest of the flock. It's as finished as anything else on the canvas. And then I go back and look for my next furthest back straggler. I'm chasing the furthest back straggler all day long out here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right now.
I think we canvassing and got a little spot of color, at least something right in each area of this painting, but I got back here, so that makes that my furthest back straggler. This won't hurt a bit. Thought I had two of those. If y'all guys haven't found these are nitrile gloves. They're not latex, they're nitrile. You go to the auto supply store, you can buy 200 for 100, maybe for about 20 bucks. Keep the paint off your hands. I don't really mind, I'm not afraid of the paint or the chemicals in it, but I get sick of having paint on my hands all the time. Just it's icky. So I usually paint in nitrile gloves, except when it's really sunny. I paint in nitrile gloves, always in the studio. And outdoors down to a certain temperature, I always paint in plastic gloves, rubber gloves. Now let's see if I can run this thing home real quick, and y'all won't be disappointed. I can't thing. I thought he was going to be better than that. What you must say is, I thought he was going to be quicker than that. It's not that I'm slow, it's I'm trying to give them their money's worth, you see. Anytime I make a gray, I'm mixing complements together. Doesn't really matter that much whatever palette. So if I've got something green here and some orange there, I'll throw the two together, I got a gray. They're different grays, I might make them different ways, but I'm always throwing complements together. A lot of times I'm throwing burnt sienna into ultramarine, or cadmium orange into viridian, yellow into phthalo. Doesn't matter. Get this mess on my always got some spot in gray. I do not. I haven't touched the ivory black today, but I might. It is not my catch-all way to make a gray. Oh, there's a gray, I'll hit it with the ivory black. Pardon me?
Why do you like starting on a white canvas for the tone?
Because I can put a nice drawing down on it and leave it to show through. Get my back. Single color transparent, work the whole thing up in a grisaille. I can use the white showing through it behind it in place of having white in my paint.
It's like a watercolor.
Hopefully as I get a little finish on it, it won't. I work from general to specific. I put in big shapes and then start chopping them up smaller and smaller. Dale, would you do me a favor? Would you grab your phone and take a picture of this from over here? One right where I am. Here, let me use the camera here. Thanks.